The morning of May 1st, the Zuiderdam made it to the transatlantic cruise terminal in Cherbourg, France. Located at the tip of the Cotentin Peninsula, the busy town of Cherbourg has been an important naval base since Napoleonic times, and is a popular gateway to the magnificent region of Normandy. It is a military, fishing and commercial port with a yachting marina and boasts the largest artificial harbor in the world. Our cabin balcony offered fantastic views of the port and the famous former Art Deco Gare Maritime building, where ocean line passengers embarked and disembarked. This handsome building now houses the Cité de la Mer, a marine center that opened to the public in 2002. As scheduled, we boarded a tour bus that would drive us to the D-Day landing beaches. Following our pictures I captured from the advantage point of the tour bus window of buildings and scenes that called my attention along the route. The fort of the island of Pelé. Fort de l'Est. The tour bus drove by the Bayeux War Cemetery, the largest Second World War cemetery of Commonwealth soldiers in France. The cemetery contains 4,648 burials, mostly of the invasion of Normandy.
Ne me fais pas de longs poèmes, ne parle pas de tes émois, pour me prouver combien.
Now in view the Bayeux Cathedral in Norman Romanesque style, consecrated in 1077.
Dans tes bras, prends-moi vite, car demain tu me quittes, tu dois m'indemniser. Il faut bien que je fasse provision de baisers.
We also passed General Dwight Eisenhower's memorial for World War II near Omaha Beach.
Et surtout rappelle-toi, si tu m'écris, ne me dis pas que tu m'adores, mais pense à moi de temps en temps, car bien de fois le cœur ignore ce que la main écrit. Ne jure pas d'être fidèle, je veux le croire malgré.
We were approaching the town of Arromanches, remembered as a historic place of the Normandy landings, and in particular as the place where an artificial port was installed. This artificial port allowed the disembarkation of 9,000 tons of material per day. So we made it to Arromanches, awarded 2 flowers in the competition of cities and villages in bloom.
Ne laisse pas mourir
Views of the quaint town of Arromanches. In 1942, Winston Churchill raised the problem of anchoring the piers of the future artificial harbor at Arromanches, and Major Beckett solved the problem by designing the floating roadways, their piers, and the kite anchors which enabled the harbor to survive the storm of 13 to 18 June 1944 and to become the key to victory in Normandy. This was a component of the floating roadways which connected the unloading piers to the shore. This span is 80 feet long and weighs 28 tons. This area honors Alan Beckett's memory. His engineering skill made the Mulberry Harbor project a success. Remains of the Mulberry Harbor in the Bay of Arromanches. It was on the beach of Arromanches that, during the invasion of Normandy, immediately after D-Day, the Allies established an artificial temporary harbor to allow the unloading of heavy equipment without waiting for the conquest of deep-water ports such as Cherbourg. The port was commissioned on 14 June 1944. Some key figures. By 12 June 1944, more than 300,000 men, 54,000 vehicles, 104,000 tons of supplies had been landed. During 100 days of operation of the port, 2.5 million men, 500,000 vehicles, and 4 million tons of material were landed. The best performance of the port was in the last week of July 1944. During those 7 days, the traffic through Arromanches exceeded 136,000 tons or 20,000 tons per day. Now, 70 years after D-Day, the Normandy coast is peaceful with lovely seaside towns and picturesque beaches. Behind the coast is an old-fashioned farming landscape of grain fields, cattle and pastures, hedges and farmhouses, as shown in this travelogue. But the memories of war and D-Day are ingrained in the landscape. Along the 50-mile D-Day invasion coast, there are the remains of German gun emplacements and bunkers, while war memorials and monuments mark where the Allied forces landed on the beaches. Only by visiting do you get a proper idea of the vastness of the enterprise. The Overlord Museum chronicles the period of the Allied landing until the liberation of Paris. The collection was gathered by someone who was both a witness to the conflict and involved in the reconstruction of Normandy. Personal items from individual soldiers and armored fighting vehicles from the 6 armies in Normandy are presented as a series of reconstructions showing over 35 vehicles, tanks and guns. During the Battle of Alais in August 1944, some 10,000 German troops were killed and 50,000 taken prisoner. Our next stop was at the Normandy American Cemetery and Memorial that honors American troops who died in Europe during World War II. The cemetery is located on a bluff overlooking Omaha Beach, one of the landing beaches of the Normandy invasion, and the English Channel. It covers 172 acres and contains the remains of 9,387 American military dead, most of whom were killed during the invasion of Normandy and ensuing military operations in World War II. The Private Ryan story is based upon the story of the Neeland brothers, Preston and Robert. The graves of Theodore Roosevelt Jr. and Quentin Roosevelt, sons of President Theodore Roosevelt, who were killed in the two world wars. The memorial consists of a semicircular colonnade with a loggia at each end containing maps and narratives of the military operations. At the center is a 22-foot bronze statue entitled "The Spirit of American Youth Rising from the Waves." The names of 1,557 Americans who lost their lives in the Normandy campaign but could not be located and/or identified are inscribed on the walls of a semicircular garden at the east side of the memorial. Then we made it to Omaha Beach, where we visited the memorial to those brave men. The Allied forces landing on this shore, which they call Omaha Beach, liberate Europe, June 6, 1944. To those brave men, an iron ship so noble, so free, without the shadow of a cloud, over St. Laurent on sea, a sculpture sublime on the seashore to past heroes, a homage in our time, a ship of iron, time, define in our thoughts of each side, hope and fraternity, and central liberty dearly bought. In the whole, a breath of history murmurs, hold fast our liberty. The National Guard monument and the original bunker sit on the spot where the 29th National Guard Division broke through German defenses on D-Day, June 6, 1944. World Peace Statue at World War II Grand Camp Macy, a gift from the Chinese sculptor Yao Yuan. Grand Camp Macy was part of the Atlantic Wall, the defense system put in place by the Germans to block the Allied invasion during World War II. This coastal town is located 4 kilometers west of Omaha Beach. It was therefore of strategic importance for the Germans, who installed 2 batteries which were from range of fire from Omaha and Utah. The Germans set up a 3rd battery a couple of weeks before D-Day, turning Grand Camp Macy into one of the major strong points of the area. The batteries were eventually destroyed by the Allied Navy on June 7, and Grand Camp was captured on June 8 by the U.S. 116th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Battalion. As the Zuiderdam left Cherbourg, we were able to capture video clips and pictures of its beautiful cityscape, as well as of its forts and piers protecting its harbor.